Hello, welcome to the Wiggin Sessions. This is Surviving and Thriving During the Global Pandemic of 2021. This is actually part 37. We have Nomi Prins back with us. You're actually one of my favorite guests, by the way.
Aww.
I've never said that to you, but you often come to the big ideas that we talk about and write about on a regular basis. You come at them from a different perspective. For readers, Nomi, one of her most recent books is Collusion: How Central Banks Rig the World, which I think helps people who haven't been in your shoes, that don't have the experience that you've had in the banking world, understand the ideas about how money works and how we always talk about the Fed and the Treasury and how money makes its way to Wall Street. You, having been or having had tenure at Goldman Sachs, were on the front line of a lot of the policy decisions that were being made during the bailout crisis. And the book, How Central Banks Rig the World, was about the policy decisions that were made in response to that crisis. So you have a unique perspective on what's happening now with the response to the pandemic and what we expect to happen. Specifically today, I'd like to talk about the reopening of the economy. What is it going to look like when we start? The phrase that people like to use is getting back to normal, but there has been so much disruption up to this point that it's not going to be normal in the way that we remember it, but we have to rebuild from what's left of the old economy, and people still have to recover from the lockdowns and whatnot. So let me just ask, just to get things started here, what is your view of what a reopening of the economy looks like?
That's an excellent question. The fact that we're on episode 37 of the post-pandemic pyramid says that we're really needing this reopening very badly. I think all of us, and I think it's going to be a different economy. It is a different economy than it would have been without the pandemic, but it happened, and so we need to work with that. There's different areas that I think will reopen in different ways, and keeping in mind that a lot of people won't necessarily return to the jobs that they had, or if they do return to them, they'll be doing them differently, or they may not have as many jobs as they had, or their old places of employment may not exist. So there's a lot of just general disruptions that happened that might be forever as they are while the economy reopens and people find different ways in participating. So I think that the behaviors that will follow whatever the end of the pandemic period looks like as we reopen America, as we reopen the world, will stay in place. So for example, I think that people who have started to look at telecommuting, at living outside of more expensive urban areas, or just more expensive areas in general, in this sort of residential real estate frenzy of getting out of their urban areas. I think that's going to continue because I think the patterns will not be such that everybody's going to telecommute constantly and all we're going to do is meet by Zoom. I think there's going to be a mixture of Zoom meetings and personal meetings and Zoom drinks and real drinks at real bars that are really open, where people can really hang out and listen to loud music and actually, spittle at each other when they're communicating and, throw back beers and the whole 9 yards. But I think getting to that point is going to take some stages in between. But I do think that we'll get there. And I do think a lot of these behaviors of potentially living further away from where offices used to be, or where more activity used to be, is going to potentially continue. And the commercial real estate in those areas is going to have to either go bankrupt or find ways to basically attract a new kind of business, a new kind of participation. I think, for example, on that basis, there's going to be a lot of collaboration between some of the new technology companies, the new innovation companies, the new health tech companies, the new data security companies, and new and old, but people that have gone into those spaces that are working from home and that may collaborate on the expenses of having an office. So unlike WeWork, for example, where people paid a regular amount to be able to have an office anywhere in the world when they felt like it, I think that model will be supplanted by, hey, we've got 5 different businesses, data security, data collection, something in 5G and cloud, something in health tech, whatever it might be, but we have similar kind of backdrops, and let's all pay 1/5 of the rent to have this space. And so I feel like there's going to be a lot of small businesses that are going to collaborate and take over some of the abandoned parts of what happened as we recover from what we had. So I think that's going to be a big shift in terms of changes. I think in terms of investments, I think there's a lot of opening to retail investors that has happened, particularly this year, and there's stories as to why. I mean, I think it's important for retail investors to always be as much in charge of their own money and their own wealth preservation and growth as possible anyway. But there's been a lot of new activity and sort of players in that space. And I think going forward, people are going to have to educate themselves more and will educate themselves more on taking care of their own finances and taking into account how the big Fed money that's gone into the financial system and produced record trading results for Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan actually affects their own participation in the markets, and how they can actually work both with that and around it to have the best preservation of their own capital going forward. So I think there's going to be a lot more awareness as we reopen, as we come out. And I think we're going to build. We have to build stuff. We have to build connections between these new residences outside of cities. Better train rails, faster train rails, better 5G, better networks, better broadband. Spectrum not going down all the time. Things like that. I think will be a part of this recovered economy. Plus more travel. We want to get out. We want to go places.